So an American wave is headed to Milan as Christian Pulisic finally completes his move. Sandro Tonali finally completes his move to Newcastle. And The Athletic comes out with an interesting article where a high-ranking official in Newcastle suggests that they actually found an agreement with Tonali first before they even approached Milan. Does this mean Tonali was pushing for this move? We'll talk about this Talksport analyst who suggests that Sandro actually made his move from Milan to Newcastle because he has a better chance there of winning trophies.
The chances of Sandro Tonali winning genuine significant silverware of that team, it's fairly pitiful.
And these are some of the profiles we're going to be looking at in today's episode of Rumor or Real. We finally have the confirmation Christian Pulisic will be headed to Milan from Chelsea. This is the fourth major transfer that has happened between Chelsea to Milan after Fikayo Tomori, Olivier Giroud, and Ruben Loftus-Cheek. But how much of an impact is this signing actually going to have? Guys, I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure what this move is. Now, we'll have to look at this from two standpoints, the technical standpoint on the field and the commercial side off the field. I think it is clear to see the way that Milan is promoting itself now, it's trying to turn itself with the new American ownership as an American brand as well. They want to push the Milan brand across the American market. And what better way to do that than to sign the captain of the American team and arguably by some people, the greatest American football player ever. And the reality is that Christian Pulisic sells a heck of a lot of jerseys. So on the commercial side, I think this makes a lot of sense. AC Milan is going to become a much bigger brand in North America now. But if we bring it back into the technical side and see what's happening there, I'm not quite sure. It doesn't look like Milan from next season onwards. This is an assumption. Doesn't look like Milan's really going to be going with the 4-2-3-1. Some people are suggesting they're not going to have a player playing behind the striker the way they did last season. So what exactly is Christian Pulisic's role going to be on this team? Traditionally, he's set to be more of a left winger. We already have Rafael Leao there. So did we just sign a 23 million euro backup for Leao? Everybody knows he can also play behind the striker. He does that regularly with the American team, like a traditional number 10. And that's a role that Milan can actually use him in. But is that the formation we're going to be sticking with next season? And is he the best quality player, the best number 10 that Milan could have gotten at this price range? Now, some people suggest that Milan want to play him on the right wing. I had the conversation with Ankit in the previous video. He's a Chelsea guy. He talked about the fact that Pulisic didn't really play a lot of right wing at Chelsea. And even if he does, are we really signing him and Chukwueze spending 50 million on the right wing suddenly? On top of everything, there's the injury issue. This is the second major signing after Ruben Loftus-Cheek that Milan has made in this Mercato, but this is another player who's semi-injury prone. Now, at the same time, it is important to point out that Christian Pulisic is technically a really gifted player. He has a history of playing top quality football in Germany. He won the Champions League and he was a pretty consequential piece in that Chelsea team that got them to the Champions League title. He's a captain of the American team, so this guy can be a leader for the squad. He just has to make sure that he takes control when he joins Milan and actually take charge. So there's no doubt about the quality of this player. It's just more of a question of where exactly does he fit at Milan. So what do you guys think? Where do you think Christian Pulisic actually fits in this Milan setup? Now to the article by The Athletic about Sandro Tonali. The Athletic spoke with a high-ranking official with Newcastle United on the condition of anonymity. And that person actually said this. He said, Sandro Tonali's loyalty melted in the face of Newcastle's offer, just like Donnarumma with PSG. Some fans are interpreting that as, see, Tonali actually pushed for this move, not Milan. Now, we don't fully know what happened behind closed doors, but here's what I'll say about that, guys. A lot of the times, even if you look at right now, we look at the Christian Pulisic breaking news, it clearly says that Milan found an agreement with Pulisic before. This is kind of the norm in football. If you want to pursue a player, it's a waste of time for you to actually go after the team first and then have the player just reject those advances. You have to first figure out with the player if he's open to that move or not, while simultaneously talking to the club as well. The agreement may have been found with Tonali first, but I don't think Sandro Tonali went to AC Milan and said, hey, I want out, I want to go to Newcastle. So to all the fans saying that, see, Tonali is actually the one who pushed for that move, I don't actually agree with that. I think logically, Newcastle found an agreement with the player first when they realized that, yes, he's completely into this move. Let's officially open up negotiations with Milan at the same time. And then somewhere around there, they struck a deal. Now, a lot of Milan fans saw that interview with Talksport where two analysts were discussing Tonali's move to Newcastle, and boy, they weren't happy with what the analyst said, so let's just dive right into it.
This is such a wild statement, I know. But realistically, Newcastle United are better placed and more likely to win significant silverware than AC Milan. And you saying that they're not and giving me that funny look.
No, I'm not giving you a funny look.
What you're doing, though.
I'm just trying to say, Sandro Tonali to leave AC Milan, and go to Newcastle. I'm saying the biggest reason's money. I don't think the biggest reason's trophy accumulation in the next 3 or 4 years.
I think it is trophy accumulation.
I think it's money.
So when I hear that, you know, I'm a little bit torn. because I can understand how Milan fans are getting upset about that, interpreting this as Newcastle is a better club or a bigger club than Milan. Historically, I'm not even going to touch that topic because it's nonsensical to give it any airtime. However, I don't think he's wrong, guys. Right now, as we speak, in the current dynamic of football, Newcastle is slightly better placed to win trophies than Milan is. The current dynamic of football is spending a lot of money. Milan is not that dynamic. I think Milan is trying to create a dynamic that is more sustainable and long-term, and I hope it succeeds over time. But right now, Newcastle are better suited to win trophies. But at the same time, I do think that this move was made for money by Tonali. Now imagine, Martino Puccio said this in his tweet. If Milan was giving him the exact same amount of money that Newcastle were, I feel like Sandro would say, no, I'm not making this move. There's no benefit in this for me.
He's gone to Newcastle, a Newcastle team that annoyingly will win a lot of silverware over the next decade.
You say that, but bear in mind, he was in a team and started for a team that was in the Champions League semi-final last season.
Yeah,
Champions League semi-final, dude.
But I mean, that was very misleading.
So when you said he wants to play
Graham Potter's Chelsea scored hundreds of goals past AC Milan.
Misleading or not, they were in the Champions League semi-final.
Yes, but it can still be misleading.
So it's misleading that Milan makes a semi-final of the Champions League, but it's not misleading as to which team was playing against Graham Potter. So he thinks that Milan making Champions League semi-final is misleading because they lost to Chelsea in the group stage, but he conveniently forgets what actually happened in the group stage when Milan was missing 4 or 5 of their starters. And to downplay a team making a Champions League semi-final, but really elevating the reputation of Newcastle that hasn't won anything since the 1960s. Somebody tweeted this out. Since Newcastle won their last trophy, AC Milan has won almost 40 trophies. So there's no remote comparison between these two clubs, but his point is fair. Newcastle is better suited for the future, but Sandro Tonali's move there, it was mostly about money, not about trophies.
Like when Chelsea played AC Milan, they were appalling. So the chances of Sandro Tonali winning genuine, significant silverware of that team, it's fairly pitiful.
This is one of those Premier League analysts that don't watch anything outside of the Premier League football and their own teams playing the Champions League. They don't even understand what's going on outside of England. My friend, AC Milan won the title last year. Sandro Tonali already won silverware with Milan. That's like watching a man climb Mount Everest and a year later saying, I don't think this guy's gonna climb any peaks. Buddy, he already did. Which brings us to checking out if any of these profiles are gonna be joining Milan, if these reports are rumor, or if they're real. I didn't really feel the need to make a video about this particular player, but here's what I'll say about him. I think it's a good signing for Milan. It goes in line with what the plan of the club is, signing young players, using them as assets. It's a free agent. He's 18. He plays decent positions. Some of the performances we saw him put in with Lazio, they're actually pretty good. But I do think this is more of a Jens Petter Auga kind of signing than a player for the future. I think this is a player that Milan wants to increase his asset value and possibly actually sell next summer or in a couple years. If he starts to do really well, you hold on to him and let him improve even more. But if he doesn't, a free player, you could possibly sell him for that 7 to 10 million mark. That's profit for Milan. Which brings us to Johnny Reijnders. Now, this is the player, the one profile. Reports suggest that Milan have made an offer to AZ Alkmaar. The offer made was in the amount of around 20 million. They want around 25 to 28 million for the midfielder. Now, guys, I think this particular profile, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, I think much more in line with Benacer. This particular player, to Johnny Reijnders, I think he's a little bit more in line with who Sandro Tonali was. He offers a little bit of something in defense. He offers great value in attack. The guy's got some serious pace. He's the same age as Sandro Tonali. So this to me feels much more like a direct replacement. And based on the current reports, if I look at rumor or real, I think this is a possible move. I think this is actually a real negotiation, but I genuinely think this is possible. I think this player is just about on the cusp of joining Milan. After completing the signing of Christian Pulisic, I think this is the player Milan is going all in on. Which brings us to Samuel Chukwueze, a player we already profiled before. It looks like Villarreal, just like a lot of other football clubs, have to sell in order to make some money. Samuel Chukwueze is one of those assets that they have. The player has a contract till I think 2024. So that means Milan is really trying to get a deal on this player. There were reports of Milan being linked to this player about 3 weeks ago. Seems like in the meantime, Villarreal haven't really gotten any other serious offers for this player. So Milan are going back in on him. The Athletic, who is a reliable source, are making a claim that Milan made an offer for 25 million for the player. And at this point in time, they're just waiting to see what Villarreal does with that offer. So is this the right profile? I guess so. But then again, it brings into question, what exactly is Christian Pulisic going to do on this team? But Chukwueze to Milan, I think it's absolutely real. The negotiations are real. Is it actually a possible move? I guess we'll have to wait and see. Which brings us to the final profile from today's video, and that's going to be Alvaro Morata. Now, there's a lot of negativity amongst Milan fans about this move. I'll be honest, I don't really feel as negatively about this. He's not 80. The guy is 30 years old. He has a lot of experience playing in the top flight, playing for Atletico Madrid in La Liga, playing for Chelsea in the Premier League, playing in Serie A with Juventus. This guy's played all around Europe. He's played for the top teams. He's played for Spain. He brings a wealth of experience, had 15 goals last season, and again, he's still only 30. Now, does it align with Milan's plans? No, it doesn't. We could have had Thuram for free. Now we're gonna have to pay for Alvaro Morata. He has a much higher salary what Thuram has. So on the financial side, this might not be what Milan was trying to go for. But on the technical side, on the field, I think Alvaro Morata would be a pretty good move. I think right now I'm gonna have to call this possible. I don't actually for sure know if the negotiations are real or not. I think it's possible. And my opinion is, I hope it actually happens. Well, there you have it, guys. Those are some of the profiles we wanted to look at today. The whole doubt amongst the fan base was, what is Milan going to do with the funds? Once they sell Sandro Tonali, are they going to reinvest it back into the mercato? The answer at this point in time, guys, yes, looks like they are spending. Now, are these the right profiles or not? Well, we spent 35 million on CDK. We saw how that turned out, so we're gonna have to give it some time. But for Milan, after the signing of Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Sportiello, Luka Romero, Christian Pulisic, looks like Milan are signing players. And if you want to stay up to date on those sales, make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you can watch these videos as soon as I upload them. And as always, Forza Milan, grazie mille e ciao tutti.